There's a question I keep coming back to. Can one person, one ordinary person, actually change the course of history? Not a king, not an army, just one person with an unshakable belief that they're supposed to do something. Today's guest did exactly that. She was 17 years old, she had never held a sword, she didn't speak Latin, she couldn't read, she had no rank, no title, no political power. And yet, she turned a war around, she saved a kingdom, and when they burned her for it, she became immortal. Today, coffee with Joan of Arc. Joan, welcome. I have to say, this is one of the conversations I've been most nervous about.
Nervous? You are sitting in a comfortable chair. No one is threatening to burn you.
Fair point, fair point. Let's start at the beginning, because I think people know your name, but not really you. Who were you before all of this?
A girl from Doremi. My father had a farm. I spun wool. I knew the fields, the seasons, the church bells. I was not remarkable. I did not think of myself as remarkable.
And then the voices came.
Yes, I was 13. I was in my father's garden. A great light, and then a voice, and then more voices. Saint Michael, Saint Catherine, Saint Margaret. They did not speak to me as something strange. They spoke to me as if they had always known me, as if this was simply the next thing.
Were you frightened?
The first time, yes. I wept. I did not understand why God would speak to a girl like me, but they came again, and what they asked became clear. Go to the Dauphin, help him reclaim France, lift the siege of Orléans.
Okay, let's stop there. Because when I put this in modern terms, it sounds almost impossible to believe. You're a teenage farm girl. You walk into a royal court. You tell the future King of France that God sent you to help him win a war. How did you even get in the door?
I asked. And then I asked again. And then again. Men refused me, laughed at me, turned me away 3 times. But I knew what I had been told, and I could not unknow it.
That's the thing I want to understand. Most of us, if someone laughed at us once, we'd start to doubt ourselves. You were turned away repeatedly by powerful men. How did you not crumble?
Because the doubt those men planted in me, it was smaller than what I carried inside. When you have heard something in the deepest part of yourself, other people's disbelief cannot reach that place. It can wound the outside, it cannot touch the core.
That's remarkable, and I think people today, whether they're religious or not, understand that feeling of a calling, something you feel you must do, but most of us still don't act on it. We wait, we prepare, we second guess.
And while you wait, Orléans burns. I do not say this harshly. I understand the fear. But I learned this. The moment you act as if the thing is already true, as if you are already who you must become, something shifts. In you first, and then in others.
That's exactly what happened, isn't it? You showed up in armour and people started believing.
The armour mattered less than the bearing. I had never fought. The men around me had fought for years and were exhausted and afraid. But I was not afraid, not in the way they expected. And that confusion, that strange certainty in someone who had no reason to be certain, it moved something in them.
You gave them permission to believe again.
Yes, I think that is it.
Let me ask you something harder. You were captured, tried, burned at the stake at 19 years old. When you were in that prison, did you ever think, I was wrong? The voices misled me?
I was alone for a very long time. They tried to make me sign a paper saying my voices were false. The first time, God forgive me, I signed it. I was afraid of the fire.
That's deeply human.
Yes, and then I recanted my recantation. I told the truth again. Not because I was brave, because I could not live, even a few more days, denying what I knew to be real. The fire was easier than that.
Joan, that line gives me chills. The fire was easier than denying what you knew. In our world today, people face much smaller fires than yours. They face ridicule, rejection, being told their dreams are foolish. What would you say to them?
I would ask them, what is the cost of silence? Not the cost of speaking, they already know that fear. But what does it cost you, every single day, to swallow what you know you are meant to do? That cost is also a fire. It is just a slower one.
One last question. The historians argue about you. Were you a mystic, a military genius, a political symbol, a feminist icon? What do you want people to understand when they hear your name?
That I was a girl who believed something so completely that history had no choice but to make room for it. I did not change history. I refused to let history stay the same.
At her trial, 19 years old, alone, facing judges who had already decided her fate, Joan said something that has stayed with me since I first read it. She said, "One life is all we have, and we live it as we believe in living it. But to sacrifice what you are, and to live without belief, that is a fate more terrible than dying." She wasn't talking about martyrdom. She was talking about the quiet death that happens when you spend your life being someone you're not. When you swallow your conviction because it's easier, because the room doesn't believe you, because you're too young, too unknown, too far from power. Joan had every reason to go back to the farm. She had no reason, by any logic, to change anything. And yet, can one person's conviction change history? I think Joan's real answer is, that's the wrong question. The right question is, what is it costing you right now not to try? I'm Joshua Whitmore. This has been Coffee with Giants.